What is going on, good people of YouTube? It's me, Chavez, back with another NFL DFS prize picks first look video. We're talking week 8 in the NFL in this video. As always, I hope this video finds you all doing well and in good spirits. Here's a few things we'll be covering in today's video. I really like doing these videos. They're fun. They're a little different, it's a little bit of a different spin on the content, and just gives me an opportunity to dig a little bit more into the NFL as opposed to keeping it about player props. But in this video, we will recap our plays from Monday and Thursday night, take a look at some injury news, take a look at the schedule, and I got quite a few games highlighted on the schedule. I think there are some headlines to keep our eyes on, some things emerging heading into week 8. And then lastly, we'll dive into the Prizepicks board. Just take a quick glance, surface level view, if you will, of the board and see if anything is popping right now. So if all that sounds good, I encourage you to stick around, drop a like, sub up, and click the notification icon. Go ahead and get notified of all upcoming content and videos from me in this channel. And without further delay, let's go ahead and recap our plays from Monday and Thursday night. All right, we're starting off Thursday night football. Let's talk about Travis Etienne. Took the over on his rushing receiving yards. He did not get that, but he did crush his fantasy points because he scored 2 touchdowns. I really thought he'd be more involved in that offense, rushing and receiving. He had a great game, just didn't get it done in terms of our player prop selected for him. So we took the L on Travis Etienne's rushing and receiving yard prop. Next play, Chris Olave took the over 63.5 receiving yards. Man, I was really disappointed about this one because he got the targets, he got the catches, he just never broke off anything big. No long gains, no big plays for him. A little bit of a lackluster pedestrian type of game for Olave, and I hope he bounces back. But man, this was a little bit of a disappointment. The only play that worked out for us was Carl Granderson took the over on his tackles and assist prop. Wouldn't you know, a defensive end saved our day, saved us from going 0-3. Just he played well and got a lot of tackles and assists in that game. There's not a whole lot to dig into on this one. So thank you, Carl Granderson, for saving the day. Took the over, got the over, and that puts us at 1-2 for Thursday night football. Moving into Monday night. All right, took the over Brock Purdy passing yards. This one hit hard. I mean, Purdy passed it a lot, and he was finding receivers downfield, 10, 15, 20 yards downfield. It was fun to watch. That one was never in doubt. Definitely was not an ugly game to watch. There was a lot of scoring in that game, so I kind of read that one wrong. But we took the over on Purdy and got the over on Purdy. So that was a nice start to our Monday night. The other prop that we talked about, Alexander Madison. It looks like Cam Akers is becoming the featured back in that offense. Little by little, he's getting more touches, and that's what happened yesterday. Madison did not see a lot of time in the fourth quarter. It was Akers receiving the majority of the touches in the backfield, carrying the ball. He was in there on a lot of important plays as well. So could we be seeing a changing of the guard in the backfield in Minnesota? I don't know, but all I know is that Madison did not reach the 12 rushing attempt mark, and that puts us at 1-1 for Monday night, and that is how our week ended. All right, let's talk some injury news in the NFL. A few names on this list. Let's start with Jalen Hurts. Got a knee injury, apparently. I didn't see anything wrong with his mobility in the game. Apparently, he was wearing a knee brace in the second half. I totally missed that. I honestly did not see him wearing a knee brace. Okay, yeah, but I don't think there's anything major here. Nothing to be very concerned about. So something we'll keep our eyes on going into week 8. But prime matchup for the Eagles this week. So hopefully we see Jalen Hurts out there. Deshaun Watson, man, this dude can't stay healthy. This dude is always banged up. his time in Cleveland has been rocky as hell. So now he's dealing with a shoulder injury. Said after the game that it was his shoulder that was the most concerning, not the head. Like we saw his head bounce off the turf. He cleared concussion protocol, so he's fine there. But apparently his shoulder is what's bothering him the most. So yet another injury, to Deshaun Watson. Another thing holding him back in Cleveland. What a terrible trade for Cleveland. Like what a dumb ass trade. That was just, great for the Texans, bad for the Browns, man. Like I so badly want to see Watson do something good in Cleveland, but it has not been a good start to his Cleveland career. Saquon, now this dude has an elbow injury. So it was the ankle injury he was recovering from and looked really good against the Bills, and then comes out this week, scores a touchdown, looks good, and then hurts his elbow in this game. So something else to keep your eye on for Saquon Barkley. He was looking good. He was looking like himself. 21 carries, 77 yards, 3 passes, 41 yards, and a touchdown. If you add all that up in terms of fantasy production, you're looking at what is that? 118? Is that 118 total yards, scrimmage yards, and a touchdown? 17 fantasy points. Oh, and 20. A little over 20 fantasy points for Saquon. That's a really good game. But he should be on the field in week 8. It's just like constant maintenance with this dude, man. But that's the latest on Saquon. All right, moving into more injury news. Okay, this Bijan Robinson shit, that was so frustrating. He almost didn't hit his underdog promo of 0.5 yards. Like it got really close. It took until the fourth quarter for him to gain a positive yard. He carried the ball for a 3-yard gain. I thought he was being disciplined. I thought his grades were bad, and Arthur Smith told him to sit out the first half and think about what he did. I felt like we were back in college when you see players sit out the first half of a game, because that'll teach them, right? I'm like, what the hell is going on with Bijan? Like, why the hell is Cordero Patterson and Algiers running all the damn plays? And then you don't learn until later on in the broadcast that Bijan is dealing with an illness. That's some shit that we would like to know at the beginning of the damn week or the game. And if he's so damn sick and he can't touch the ball, like he's allergic to the damn ball, why is he even in the game? Like Arthur Smith, like they're so lucky they won that game, because there were some dumbass plays in that game. And I just think the dumbest move of all was playing Bijan if he wasn't healthy. Like, you don't even need him out there for a decoy. Like, you really don't. Like, you risk injury to your franchise, basically, trying to decoy stuff. Like, come on, man. It's not playground football. Like, it's not sleight of hand. He's either healthy or he's not. He's in the game and he's producing, or he's not. Like, I'm sure by mid-game, the Bucs kind of figured out, like, Bijan wasn't really involved in his game plan. So him being on the field doesn't change the scheme, at all. So that was super weird. Hopefully he's back on the field in week 8 and he's over his illness. Jerome Ford, man, started off really strong in that game versus the Colts, and then got hurt and ended his day with 74 yards on 11 carries. I want to say he rushed for a touchdown. Like, he broke off a huge game for a touchdown, 2 passes for 20 yards. So walking boot after the game. A little bit of concern on the Cleveland Browns side here, but Kareem Hunt stepped up, and you had Pierre Strong also providing some run support or some support in that backfield. But if Ford can't go in week 8, then, man, Kareem Hunt turns into a huge option, value play, and should receive the majority of the touches in that backfield. Jalen Waddle, So this dude couldn't walk off the field, and they were seen like carrying him to the locker room, or like his arms were on the trainers and he was holding his lower back like he had fallen and he couldn't get up. And then after halftime, he's doing like calisthenics on the sideline and jazzercise and shit. So I guess he took a good shot in the locker room, whatever they do in the locker room. And he was fine. Finished the game with 6 catches on for 63 yards, no more issues. But like, it's like you're hurt or you're not hurt. Like, is it just being dramatized on TV, showing Jalen Waddle walking around like literally like he had never walked before, and then all of a sudden he's running around. So seems like he's fine. Christian Watson dealing with a knee injury. It's the same injured knee, or the same knee he had surgery on back in June. So I would say there's a little concern there, especially like with the history of that knee. So if Watson can't go, you got guys like Jalen Reed and Dubs and Wicks, in that receiving core. But you also have, we'll see on the next slide, that Musgrave, the tight end for the Packers, took a nasty hit from Kareem Jackson, but that really wasn't the injury news for him. But let's start. Last few pieces of injury news. DK Metcalf now dealing with a hip injury. So in week 7 it was ribs, and in week 8 it's a hip. So I guess the hip bone is connected to the rib bone for DK Metcalf's ass. But here's my take on this. I don't really think that this Seattle team misses him. I mean, you saw Bobo step up. Man, what a fantastic catch in the end zone. That was so cool to watch on replay, watching him get like both feet down. That shit was crazy. And then you got JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, emerging, getting healthier, right? Started off the season a little banged up, but over the last few games, we've seen him take a larger role. And if Metcalf is unable to go for some some lengthy period of time, I honestly don't feel that the Seahawks are going to hurt all that much. It's not like if A.J. Brown were to go down, or Tyreek Hill. What a huge loss to that offense. Like, you can't replace those guys. You just can't. Those are your number one options. But I feel in Seattle, I don't feel like that's the case. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're just trying to trade him. I mean, maybe he is hurt, but maybe they're going to keep him out a little longer and let him heal up and package him out. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some movement there. But for now, DK Metcalf has a hip and rib injury, status unknown for week 8. Musgrave, ankle injury. So Kareem Jackson hit his ass so hard in the head that his ankle got hurt. It looked like he knocked him out, and Musgrave was able to stay in the game. I don't even believe he went through protocol. I don't even believe it just looked really bad. But his ankle I think it got like trapped underneath him as he fell. But that's something to look out for, especially if Watson isn't able to play, or he's banged up in week 8. And then you got like 2 pretty important pieces to that passing game not able to go. So keep your eye on that in Green Bay. And then last bit of injury news, quadricep for Gerald Everett. Caught a touchdown pass. But if he's not able to go, Donald Parham steps in. That depth chart, that tight end depth chart in San Diego, in LA, has always been a little suspect. Not since Antonio Gates, right? Have we seen just strong play out of that position? So I don't know. I feel like these guys are the same guy. Parham and Everett, like, they both do the same thing. Couple catches, 10, 15 yards, very touchdown dependent. So there's your injury news for week 8. A lot of big names, like I mentioned. Lots of things to keep our eyes on for week 8 in terms of this injury news. All right, week 8 is upon us. Thursday night football. Bills hosting the Bucks, ending with Monday Night Football. Lions hosting the Raiders. Listen, quite a few games highlighted in the green here. These are the games with the highest spreads. Teams favored by basically a touchdown or more. You got the Bills favored by 7.5. Got the Dolphins favored by 10.5, Lions 7.5, the Chargers over the Bears 8.5, Cardinals hosting the Ravens, home dogs, and then you got the Broncos 8.5 home dogs to the Chiefs. 4 games I highlighted that don't have high, point spreads, but something I'm watching out for. So Texans at the Panthers. This is your number, top 2 picks going head to head. I'm making out to be more than it probably will be, but anytime you got the 2 top picks in that draft playing each other, that's something to keep your eye on. And they're both quarterbacks, faces of the franchise. You got the Vikings at the Packers. Very important game for the Vikings, I guess, and the Packers, but more so Vikings. Eagles at Commanders. I just think this is going to be a bad game for Washington. And then Bengals at 49ers. I always like when these 2 teams play because I'm reminded of those Super Bowls between the Bengals and 49ers. But after seeing Monday Night Football and the 49ers lose, I think this is a game to highlight for sure. I think this is a game to watch. So these are some games that are standing, like damn near half the schedule standing out to me. So we're going to go over some headlines and we're going to talk about these games a little bit more closely. So let's go ahead and transition over into the next few slides, and we'll start looking at these headlines for Week 8. All right, first headline: Are the Bills in trouble? Are the Bills in trouble? Listen, they just have not looked like a strong contender this season. I mean, they lost to the Jets. They damn near lost to the Giants. And then they go out and lose to the Patriots. And the Patriots have had the worst season in recent memory and were able to upset the Bills. That is newsworthy to me. Mac Jones looked like a competent quarterback back there. No turnovers, 2 touchdowns, 270 yards. Kendrick Bourne looked good. Yeah. It does not look good for the Bills right now. So I ask you, are the Bills in trouble going into Week 8? All right, headline number 2, Detroit, a pretender? The Lions started off hella hot, man. They were whipping ass, not even taking names. They were just whipping ass. And then they ran into a buzzsaw called the Baltimore Ravens, and Lamar Jackson put it on that ass, man. Kind of a sobering moment for Detroit. So the record looks good. They have a lot of good pieces on that team, and they seem to have the things they need in place to make a nice run to the postseason. But after a game like that versus the Ravens, I even have to ask myself, is Detroit a pretender? Speaking of the Ravens, can we quote the Ravens? The Ravens quietly have been one of the best teams in the NFL, and I say quietly because of the play from the Detroit Lions, because of the never-ending, momentum that Kansas City has. The 49ers healthy-ish this season, starting off the season strong. The strong play from the Eagles. Oh, and the Dolphins scoring 100 points a game. But can we quote the Ravens? That was a statement game for the Ravens. You got going into that game, one of the hottest teams in the NFL, pretender or not. They were on a nice run. Coming into your home, looking to, beat you in your home stadium, and the Ravens put it on them. It wasn't even close. It was never a close game, a tough game. And Lamar Jackson just did whatever he wanted to do all damn game. But I think this was a super important game for the Ravens because this puts them in talk of one of the top teams in the NFL. They have the talent to make a run. That new offense is looking good around Lamar Jackson. I mean, is this the time to quote the Ravens? I don't know. Let's find out in Week 8. But, man, they sure as hell did look really good against the Lions. All right, Mahomes still got it. Listen, I don't think we ever doubted Mahomes. Like, I don't believe he lost it. But we talked about this last week in the first look video. We had yet to see one of those vintage Mahomes games where he goes out and passes for 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns. Well, that happened. I think he passed for like 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he didn't get hurt, and he was finding open receivers, and he just looked like magician Mahomes out there. Yeah, he still got it. So I personally have been waiting on that game from him. One of those games from Mahomes that we were used to seeing. Just haven't been seeing a lot of lately. But man, he sure as hell looked good. He still got it. The Chiefs still got it. Oh, that's scary once all the pieces start coming together in KC and that receiving core starts to solidify. Yeah, that's going to be very, very scary. All right. Number 1 versus number 2, battle of the faces. Like, I don't think they're going to, like, fight with their faces. What I'm saying is this is the battle of the faces, as in faces of the franchise. You got CJ Stroud, Texans franchise right there. You got Bryce Young, the Panthers franchise right there. You got reports coming out of Carolina that it was the owner in Carolina that wanted Bryce Young, not the head coach. Bryce Young never should have been drafted by Carolina. It should have been CJ Stroud. You got all that shit going on. You got CJ Stroud leading this Texans team to a respectable record in the AFC South, knocking off the Saints going into the bye week. There's a lot to like here. There's a lot to watch here from both sides. You know, can CJ Stroud keep it going? But when will we see that Bryce Young game? When will we see him really start to take control of the game and this offense? The process has been very rocky and slow for him, especially when you compare it to that of CJ Stroud. So I'm excited to watch this game, especially as a Texans fan. But always like seeing young quarterbacks go head to head. All right, will the Vikings let down? And I only say this, I only ask this because they're coming off a huge victory versus the 49ers, a victory that I don't believe many people saw coming. But they're coming off this huge home win versus the 49ers. And we've seen this happen in the NFL. We see this happen in all sports. Coming off that emotional high, and you have to sustain for the next week. You know, if you dip too low, if you're still playing off last week's momentum or last week's vibe, that doesn't set you up for success. Like, you got to stay balanced, even keeled. So this is a prime letdown spot for the Vikings, but man, it is also a spot for them versus a Packers team that if they reel off another win, you're looking at them starting to take control of this division in a major way. So a very important game for the Vikings, but gotta ask, will the Vikings let down? All right. Talked a little bit about the Eagles, but can they score 50? Will the Eagles fly in week 8 and score 50 points? Because guess who they're playing? The Washington Commanders. Guess what the Washington Commanders are? They're in trouble. That offense looked inept. That defense did not look good. The Eagles are coming off a statement victory, I guess you can call it, versus the Dolphins. And now they play the Commanders, who give up. We talked about this last week. The Commanders give up a ton of production, tons of big gains down the field. They give up pass plays to everybody. We saw Ritter and London have career games against this team 2 weeks ago. And now Hurts and Brown and Smith and Goddard roll their ass into DC. I think this could be a very ugly game for the Commanders, and I think 50 points is legitimately in play for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, last headline. Brock Purdy is human. Now, we've seen 2 games from him where he has not had his best stuff. Yes, Brock Purdy passed for a ton of yards versus the Vikings. He helped us out with our player prop for sure. Ended that game 272 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and 19 rushing yards on 5 attempts. The 2 interceptions were really bad. He's just trying to make a play out there and trying to keep the drive going, but man, he just made a mistake. And then against Cleveland, we talked about how tough that game was going to be and how tough that environment is to play in Cleveland. 2 games back to back where Brock Purdy has not looked all that Purdy. But I mean, shit, if you listen to Troy Aikman talk, I mean, he's talking about Brock Purdy like they need to be getting his bus ready in Canton. To see him struggle a little bit yesterday, I think we'll see a few more games like that out of him this season. But he's human. He's not a machine. He's not Ivan Drago out there. But yeah, it was definitely a game I'm sure that the 49ers wish they had back. And definitely Brock Purdy with that last interception to seal the deal for the Vikings. All right, and those are some headlines that I really have my eye on going into Week 8. A lot of cool things to look out for in the NFL this week. And we got NBA coming back this week. Man, what a great time to be a sports fan, right? All right, enough talk. Let's transition over to the Prizepicks dashboard. We're going to spend a few minutes just looking over some player props. We're not locking anything in. We're not making any decisions, but we are going to take a look at the board, see if anything stands out, and then we'll call it a day. All right, here we are over on the Prizepicks dashboard. Let's just take a gander at what's going on right now. We got quite a few plays available to us. Unlike last week where we were really just limited as to what was available. I think the only plays were for Thursday night. Now it looks like we got a few extra plays from other games outside of that TNF game. But let's just look. I like starting with the touchdown prop because these seem to be the ones that get taken off the board the quickest. I will say, if you were going to lock anything in today and you had to play it, I wouldn't hate you if it were I wouldn't hate you anyway. Hate's a strong word, but I wouldn't hate on the fact that you locked in a touchdown prop because we see these touchdown props get removed real fast. So let's take a look at these. You got Josh Allen prop for 2.5 pass rush and receiving touchdowns. I'm just gonna call them touchdowns right now. Stephon Diggs 0.5, ETN 0.5. ETN has been popping so hard, right? I mean, we see here basically averaging 2 touchdowns a game, especially on the road. I mean, that's where he thrives. We talked about that. That was one of the reasons why we liked this damn prop last week versus the Saints. But ETN over 0.5. Tyreek Hill over 0.5. I feel like the offense in Miami is so strong that you could play both of these guys. But I mean, touchdowns sometimes can be very hard to come by, and you don't want to cannibalize your slip by playing both of these guys together. But one-offs, I like these guys. Kenneth Walker really let everybody down last week. He was in a prime spot, super chalky play last week in terms of his player props and his fantasy, or his DFS, his DFS upside it just wasn't there, is what I'm trying to say. But Kenneth Walker failed to get in the end zone last week. Now gets to face a tough Cleveland team. I mean, we saw Cleveland give up a ton of points to Indy. So you could look at Kenneth Walker Travis Kelsey, I feel like Travis Kelsey and Pacheco are kind of in that same boat with Raheem Mostert and Tyreek Hill. The only difference is Mahomes is a better quarterback than Tua, and these guys are like always involved in the offense. Where we'll see Raheem Mostert get spelled out um, from time to time, but like we saw Pacheco catch a pass, run in the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, Travis Kelsey is just a beast. So like you could do worse. These are all standing out to me. And then Josh Jacobs, okay, bounce back spot for him because again, another running back who was in a prime spot last week. We talked about the Raiders defense showing up against that against the rookie quarterback Bajent. Whew, whatever, man. Those guys forgot to show up. These dudes overslept, and Josh Jacobs didn't do diddly poo last week. So he's in a spot right now where we could see him carry the ball a little bit more, maybe. But for now, I think these dudes are in play. Listen, I will say this. Let me clear this out. If you think that Josh Allen is going to bounce back and just like play that game that we thought we were going to see last week in New England, then you need to play Stephon Diggs. You have to play both of these guys because he's not rushing for 3 touchdowns. He might rush for 1. He's passing for at least 1. He's going to pass for 2 versus the Bucks. Who's he throwing it to, right? This is like a guy who's getting 15 targets a game. So this makes sense to me. Like, you want to talk about plays that cannibalize each other. Anytime you can correlate a quarterback and receiver, that's especially in a high-powered offense like this. So I think this is a good little correlation here for a touchdown, for your touchdown props. Rushing touchdown. I mean, if the Eagles get inside the 2-yard line, you know that Jalen Hurts is going to rush it in. So I don't want to call that a lock, but like Jalen Hurts isn't running in from 20 yards out. He's not, and he's not trying to run, but those quarterback sneaks, that's a different beast. So if the Eagles get in, inside the 5, first and goal kind of situation, I think Jalen Hurts is good for a touchdown, rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown. We talked about, Travis. If you're going to play a touchdown for Travis Kelce, just play his anytime touchdown. Like, just play his anytime touchdown because that covers receiving. So this to me is unnecessary. Receiving yards. Let's take a look at anything that's standing out here. Just like matchups that pop out without digging into any numbers. Thielen, 68 yards is kind of high, but he's done this 4 games in a row. He's topped 100 yards in back-to-back games. Texans defense is not as bad as you think or as we want to believe it is. DeMeco Ryans is a really good defensive mind, and he's showing that he's a pretty good rookie head coach. If anything, I knew coming into this season, if anything was going to pop for the Texans, it was going to be that defense. I anticipated a pretty slow learning curve for Stroud. I mean, I think he's playing above a lot of people's expectations, but I felt that defense was going to be ready to roll from day one because of DeMeco Ryans and what he brings to that coaching staff, to that team. He will have them ready to play, but I mean, Adam Thielen is the guy in Carolina. He is CJ Stroud's number 1. Like, he's going to get a lot of targets. So looking at this receiving yard, it's not going to get lower than this. It's going to go up. I mean, so this is a good one for Thielen. Puka was at 60 some odd yards last week, and they bumped him up to 70. But against that Dallas defense, I like this. keep feeding Lamb. Don't silence the Lamb. All right, keep feeding Lamb. I like that one. Christian Kirk is the number one guy in Jacksonville, even if we want to believe that it's Ridley. I love Ridley, but man, this dude will drop a pass on your ass, man. And Kirk is just more dependable, more reliable. I think he's Lawrence's go-to guy in Jacksonville. Pickens and Deontay Johnson. Now this receiving core, this offense in Pittsburgh looks a little different with Deontay Johnson coming back. 79 yards against the Rams. Yeah, this one looks good to me as well. And you can also go with Pickens, right? Let's get Hurts out of there. You can also go with Pickens. This dude, Kyle Pitts, oh my God. It's so scary playing any receiver from Atlanta because Desmond Ridder is so bad. But he just finds a way to get it done. Like, at the end of the game, like London always is over his prop. Pitts, same thing. Like, Pitts will go all game with no catches, and then Ridder will just pepper him with 5 targets on one drive, and he'll go over. Yeah, so you can look to those guys against Tennessee. You don't really want to try to run the ball against Tennessee. I think you can find some success passing the ball against Tennessee. We talked about the Eagles scoring 50. I don't think they scored 50 without A.J. Brown going over his prop. But man, there are a lot of receiving yard props available to us. But those are the ones that are really standing out right now. Rushing yards, man, we are just not seeing guys like do a lot of damage on the ground. It's ground and air. Like, a lot of running backs now are FedEx. This ground and air. You're not seeing just solely running backs getting it done on the ground. I mean, like James Cook, 56 yards. He had a pretty good game, like, overall. Like Etienne, 53 rushing yards. Like, this is becoming the normal. A lot of these rushing yards are... Take the under on a lot of these rushing yards. That might be my hot take for the week, or that might be my stand on the week. Play the under on these rushing props. Obviously, do your research, but this is 2023. Running backs just aren't carrying the ball 20 times a game anymore. I mean, shit. Lamar Jackson's not trying to get beat up on these plays anymore. You know, like, you're seeing these quarterbacks will run if they have to, but a lot of these lines are too high. Saquon's an exception because he will run the majority of the touches in that backfield. Breece Hall, I mean, he had that huge game against Denver, and then, I mean, did people really think he was going to come out and dominate Philly? I mean, that was a definite time to avoid the play or take the under, but now he gets to play the Giants. But even he's not getting all the carries in the backfield. So, like, keep your mind open to taking the under on some of these guys, because I don't think people are catching on to the fact that running backs don't have to be bell cow running backs in order to have an impact on the game. Like, look at this, man. Come on. So I might be looking at a lot of unders this week for rushing yards. Running backs are just not what they used to be. CJ Stroud over 239 yards. We saw the Saints put it on him a little bit, but it didn't matter because Texans still won. This is a prop to look at. Super low line for Bryce Young. Back-to-back games are going over, but Texans defense is probably a little better than Miami. Man, Matthew Stafford. This dude, like, I watched that game, and he doesn't throw for a lot of touchdowns. He doesn't throw for a lot of yards. He's old, and he can't move all that well. I can't see him being in LA after this season. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do, but yeah. Looking at the under on this line as well. I know they're playing Dallas. I get it, but no. Matthew Stafford is always, I feel like he's just a trap. Let's see. Desmond Ridder over 213. Yeah, that's too low for Desmond Ridder. I know we want to take the over on this one because the competition is weak, but there are other ways the Eagles can beat you. Shit, man, what if they score like 3 defensive touchdowns? Sam Howell throwing 4 interceptions a game. So this is a trap. I understand 219 is too low, but I just talked about the Saints keeping CJ Stroud under 200 yards. There's a reason why this is so low, and I don't think it's low enough. So Mahomes is in play. Burrow, the way we saw Kirk Cousins dissect the 49ers, the Bengals have better weapons. Burrow's a better quarterback than Cousins. I understand that doesn't mean anything. You just don't that's not how things work in sports. However, because you still have to play the game. However, what I am saying is that the same success you can see the Bengals having the same success as the Vikings, if not more. So I think Burrow is in play for sure. And then bounce back spot for the Lions, perhaps. That Vegas defense is terrible, just terrible. So we're just looking at this surface level, right? We're just looking at this surface level. We're not even doing any research, but right off the bat, we're looking at a lot of plays that are standing out. And as we put the time into the research this week, we'll have a little bit more to go on going into Sunday. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's first look video for week 8. A very long video. Make sure you utilize the chapter feature on these long videos. I provide them there so you don't have to watch the video in its entirety. I would appreciate it if you did. But if you just want to skip around, that's how you do it. So leave me a comment below. Let me know what you like the most in the NFL going into week 8. What game is popping out to you? What props are popping out to you in week 8? As always, thank you all so much for just stopping by, checking this video out, and supporting the channel, allowing this channel to grow every single day. Listen, best of luck to you all, no matter what you're playing this week, whatever sport you're playing. I hope you win. I hope you win big. Leave me a comment. Let me know how much you won. Let me know how badass your wins were. And until my next player prop video, Chavez is